Hey folks, this is John from OptixEQ, and today I'm going to look at race 2 from Saratoga. It's a maiden claiming race, a race I typically don't get involved with, but anytime I could beat a favorite, I want to kind of get involved, and I think we can beat this favorite, number 7, Mr. Curiosity. First, I just want to take a look at the plot, just kind of get a feel for it, and again, explain how I assess plots and what I look for. And in this case, typically you look at the plot fit, and the plot fit looks strong. It's a green, and the alignment looks great if you look across the line here. So that this typically is a plot that would be one that we want to really kind of break down. But in this case, it's a maiden claiming race, and if you look up at Optix RPM, that tells you the run styles, or the preferred run styles of horses that have run. And you see it's kind of sparse, right? We have 7 horses in this race, and there's only 3 numbers up there. And that's because these are maiden claimers. They haven't run much. They haven't established a run style. And if you look down at the table, I've sorted it by days last. And you can see there's 3 horses coming off major layoffs, and the number 6, Steel Grit, is a first-time starter. So you really are kind of guessing a little bit with the plot. You're not using a lot of information. So I wouldn't rely on the plot in this particular case. I would really more focused on what the grid and the notes are telling me and try to figure something out. So that's what we're going to do. So let's go over and let's start with the favorite. Again, that's where we kind of start, and that's the reason we're kind of looking at this race. And if we look at him from the bottom up, he started his career at Belmont, a no-finish race, and then came back again at Belmont. Had some minor trouble, but he couldn't keep up. There was a flag on those figures that day, so we're not sure if that's the right figure. But he comes back with another C at Aqueduct, all maiden special weights. And then he goes away, and he doesn't come back until 221 days later in a maiden claimer. He shows up, and he runs his best race. And that 75 number is a real outlier, right? It's just really nothing compared to what he's run in the past. And that makes sense. I mean, a little bit, because he's making probably the most significant drop you can make in racing, maiden special and maiden claimer, that lower level. He kind of popped out of the gate. He's lone speed, and he did get run down. There wasn't a no finish, but he did get run down late in the stretch. Okay, not so bad. Maybe he can move up from that. But what happens is, they try to re-enter him on the 8th of July, and he gets scratched. And then we don't see him the whole meet, pretty much, at Saratoga until today. He shows up at this $25,000 level. I just think there's red flags with this horse. At this price, he's 8 to 5 in the morning line. To me, he's a play against. He just, that type of form just kind of worries me. And so we're going to try to beat him. There's not a lot in this field. If you look at it, we'll go through it quickly. There might be 1 or 2 that might be interesting, and we'll talk about maybe how to play that as we go through. But again, if we got a beatable favorite, we'll try to make money somehow. So the number 1, he's had his chances. Cat's Landing's had his chances at the level. So he's run C pluses, B minus was the best, but that's actually even below the level at Belmont. And his only race here at Saratoga was, not great. Now, we do have a keyword of tactic, so it seemed like he made an early move, but it wasn't really a move. It was kind of a mild move. So we're just not digging this horse. He's had his chances. We don't see this horse as a candidate for the win end. If we move on to number 2, he had, he's moving down from 40 to 25. He had some trouble. He was a little green. If you look at his extended comment, it basically says that at the end there, he's possible he's capable of a little bit better and might have just need the experience. I think he needs a little bit more than that. He is dropping, but it's a horse that, we might use as a C if we're looking at a pick 5 or something, but I think we can do better, as far as candidates. And I think the next horse, and I'm going to just kind of single them out so we can see it a little bit more easily, is the number 3. This horse started his career at Belmont in a maiden special weight. He ran a C plus, not a bad race. It looked more like a prep. And if you look at his extended comment, what we say is that he kind of finished in a controlled breeze. It's almost like a workout, right? Almost like a public workout. And maybe they had it all along in mind to either drop this horse or whatever. But in the second race, he was maiden special again. He encountered some trouble. It was more not just trouble, it was more of kind of traffic. He was just uncomfortable. He was surrounded by horses, and horses don't do their best when they're kind of stressed. And so we can be a little bit more forgiving. And the fact that he actually improved by 4 Optix points, or maybe almost 2.5 lengths, I think it is a positive. And now the big drop, which you see, the effect a big drop could have when we talked about the favorite. So we're projecting this horse to run a much better race, maybe in that low to mid 70s range, which we think is going to take to win this race. So we think this horse is a viable candidate. Maybe the 4, again, this horse just hasn't done much running, but gets a drop. Now the middle race at Aqueduct wasn't bad, in terms of figure-wise. It looks like a little bit of an outlier. Just wish the next race out would have ran a little bit better. And now we got the 243-day layoff. However, he changes barns, goes to a real hot barn at the meet right now, and gets Castellano. And you got to just pay attention to those connections right now. And he's again, he may be another alternative to the favorite. But, I think we like the 3 a little bit better here. But anyway, he is a viable candidate. And so if you are playing the pick 5 or whatever, the pick 4 in this case, look to use him as well. The 5, Bad Scooter, gets the big drop too, but this horse was grassing. He was running on grass races. He's off a 434-day layoff again. I don't know what we're getting here, but I don't think they know what they're getting either in terms of the connections. They had this horse initially routing on the turf. I guess they thought he was a turf horse. They moved him to dirt, I guess, just because they stay New York based in Aqueduct, and they got him back on the turf. And now it looks like they're just trying to either prep this horse for a run back on the turf or whatever. But nothing here in terms of sprint profile for this horse, especially where he hasn't been showing, other than the last race, hadn't been showing much speed routing going long. So a little bit of a concern here, and it'll probably be a big price, but he doesn't look very viable to us. And then finally, the number 6, and I don't know much about the connections, I'm not crazy about horses first time in a maiden claimer this low, but you just got to pay attention just because everyone's so bad, and it's not going to take much to win a race like this. So if you have access to clocker reports like Optix Works, we base our, right now, our Optix Works is really based on Southern California races and horses. Hopefully we will extend that at some point. But if you do, I would just take a look to see if there's any kind of unusual or above par workout activity on this horse before I get involved. So there you have it. Really not very exciting race, but again, if you can beat the 7, we were kind of leaning on the 3. We would use the 4 and maybe the 2 as a backup horse. And again, this is where we would be pretty much looking to kind of upset a horse, the 7, in a pick 5 or pick 4 and get our price up. And we think this might be a viable race. So take a shot. Again, this is John from Optix, and thanks for your participation.